Welcome to the online introduction to the News Media and Society, How to Restore the Public Trust. This online program is funded by a grant from the Society of Professional Journalists and put together by David Burton, a civic communications specialist with University of Missouri Extension, using materials from the National Issues Forum. The materials use three approaches as a way to discuss the issue. Each approach offers different perspectives on what has damaged citizens' trust in the news media. Each presents various ways to address these problems. After reviewing this content, we invite you to share comments on this video, and also we invite you to take our online survey. Good journalism is vitally important for a strong democracy. But Americans increasingly do not trust the news media. We must restore citizens' trust in news reporting in order for our democracy to function well. This introduction deals with three approaches to repairing the relationship between the news media and the American people. Each approach offers different perspectives on what has damaged citizens' trust. Each presents various ways to address those problems. The ideas and suggestions come from citizens and experts across the country. Approach 1 is strengthen the journalist conduct. This approach suggests that negative influences in journalism have been allowed to flourish because journalists have been working without identified standards of conduct. They have lost sight of journalism as a public service. Many professions, such as accounting, law, and teaching, require ongoing certification for participation in the field. This approach says that journalists should be subject to this kind of scrutiny, especially given their unique role in society. Under this approach, what should be done? Well, journalists should develop and post standards that help citizens discern fair and accurate news coverage. Then once standards are devised, journalists should be officially tested and certified in these new standards. And a greater commitment should be given to train journalists in newsrooms and journalism schools, so they develop skills with the tradition of American democracy in mind. Now keep in mind, the Society of Professional Journalists has ethical standards for journalists already in place, but membership in SPJ is voluntary. A drawback to this approach is that standards don't guarantee good behavior because the standards may just be ignored. Also, journalism standards are a constantly moving target. Acceptable and non-acceptable behavior by journalists cannot be completely identified. And while the behavior of journalists remains in question, we can't afford to wait for established standards. We must find quicker ways to address the problems. And then some of the trade-offs to this approach. One, if the conduct of journalists is monitored, it could limit the innovative thinking and risk-taking that leads to groundbreaking stories. It could also lead to censorship. And number two, if there is going to be certification of journalists and continued monitoring of their conduct, it would require a huge commitment of both time and money. Also, opinions will differ on how best to execute this plan. Approach 2 says to open up the marketplace. It has been said that freedom of speech only applies to those who own the printing press. This approach suggests that the reason news coverage has declined in quality is because the media is made up of corporate entities that are more concerned about profits than anything else. Too much ownership exists in the hands of a few large companies. This squeezes out diverse opinions and coverage. And according to this approach, we must guard against the type of ownership that big conglomerates such as Time, Warner, and Disney have garnered. Under Approach 2, what should be done? Well, this approach suggests that we should place limits on how much ownership can exist in a market by one company and lower the expectation of profit for news companies. Also, we need to clearly define public interest and hold the media accountable to serve that interest. And finally, under this approach, we need to boost alternative broadcasting by funding independent productions, public affairs programming, and other similar avenues. What are some of the drawbacks to approach number 2? Well, to adequately cover the world's news, we need big media companies. Many important stories have been reported because these companies had the resources to support the pursuit. Number 2, free speech is paramount, but it does mean we may sometimes have to watch and read things that we don't like. After all, the media is simply feeding the public appetite as they continue to pay close attention to these sensational stories. And third, the marketplace is working. Americans have more choices than ever before, and media corporations have used profits to create new programming, like the Learning Channel. What are the trade-offs to approach number 2? Well, without the money and resources of large corporations, the variety and quality of news could drop. And also, more regulation could stifle free speech and make it harder for the media to respond to what we want. It would also take control away from journalists and give it to the government, and probably lead to regulation of both the internet and cable TV. Approach number 3 is get citizens in. This approach suggests that to regain the trust between the public and the media, citizens and journalists must find ways to relate as equals. When citizens take bold steps to impact the actions of the media, they will be more in control of how the news media and news stories are presented. They can also help to define newsworthy stories by becoming involved in the process of reporting them. Under approach number 3, what should be done? Citizen councils should be created that meet regularly with members of the media and serve as an arbitrator between the press and the public. Number 2, citizens should create their own news sources to cover stories they feel are missing in the mainstream media. And number 3, citizens should also boycott media coverage when they feel it's inadequate or unfair. There are some drawbacks to approach number 3. For example, ordinary citizens do not have the savvy, resources, or training to cover the news, and if they tried, coverage could get worse. Also, a news council was attempted at the national level and failed due to a lack of interest. These approaches won't last long in the long run. And then third, there should be separation between the media and the public in order for the news to be accurately pursued and reported. Newspaper and TV stations cannot be run like Rotary clubs, says this approach. And there are 2 trade-offs to this approach. By tearing down the wall that exists between the press and the public, members of the media would end up getting more involved in our daily lives. And another trade-off is that councils and boycotts run by citizens are difficult to organize and sustain, and they require a great deal of money to publicize. Thank you for listening to this introduction. There are additional reading materials as well as a full copy of the issue book available online at extension.missouri.edu/green. After you are comfortable with those materials, then please take 5 minutes to answer the online survey to give your feedback on how you think this issue should be handled and which elements from the approaches you like best. Thank you for your time.